Hey guys, it's 12:43. I have not properly been training for my half marathon, which is in October, and instead I've been making Tekken tutorials and planning a vacation. Good use of time. Good use of time. Yeah, I need to start getting on this exercise and start training for this half marathon, otherwise it's not happening. But let's get to the video. Hello, I'm Peter and welcome to another Tekken Beginners Fundamentals video. This video will have frame data in it, so those of you who don't understand frame data should watch my Tekken 103 Fundamentals video here. Boink! Alright, after back-to-back videos on Brian, I'm taking a little break for myself to make beginner fundamental videos. The Brian videos really take a lot out of me, so I need a little breather for that. And I'm sure my editor, Mugomog, will appreciate it as well. I promise you, Mugomog, I will start running. I will prepare for that half marathon. Anyways, I will be going back to Brian, but in the meantime, let's go over the topic of counter hits. We will explain counter hits and their attributes, then go over how to minimize the chances of getting counter hit, how to maximize your chance of landing counter hits, and converting off of counter hits. That's a lot of counter hits. Let's go. Alright, first up, what is a counter hit? A counter hit in Tekken is an attack that lands during the startup animation or the active window of another attack. Yes, this includes trading attacks. So a simple example, watch Fang here perform his unblockable up back 1+2. The whole time that he is waving his arms counts as the startup animation. Any attack during this window will register as a counter hit. To show that trading registers as a counter hit as well, look here. See that counter hit text pop up in the left hand side right here when these jabs trade? Yeah, in Tekken, when you trade an attack for an attack, it counts as a counter hit. Now, we know what counter hits are. Let's dive into the different attributes of counter hits. Damage boost. So first and foremost, counter hits inflict more damage than normal hits. From my testing, counter hits damage ranges anywhere from 111% to 120%, excluding other damage modifiers such as rage, clean hit, or something else. Except there are cases, or rather one case, where counter hits didn't give a damage boost. This is Lee's forward 3-3 series. None of the threes outside of the first forward 3 did any counter hit damage, oddly enough. You can take a look here. Notice that the text counter hit pops up, but no damage boost text increase. Yeah, this was very odd. Sorry, Lee players. Womp womp womp. Anyways, the bonus damage dealt depends on which attack is used. See the second hit of Steve's back 1-2? This string does 111% damage on counter hit. However, Steve's back 2 on counter hit does 120%. Damage boosts vary widely, it just depends on which attack it is. Now, there is no need to memorize how much damage any specific attack does on counter hit, just know that counter hit attacks do more damage. Hit properties. For most of the cast, when an attack lands as a counter hit, it is the same as usual, but with more damage. Here's an example. Steve's 1-2-1 on hit right here behaves the same as on counter hit, as does forward 2. which knocks down on both normal and counter hits. However, some attacks do change on counter hit, and they come in 3 flavors. The first flavor is changes in frame data. Some attacks give more plus frames on counter hit than on normal hit. For example, the second hit of 1 down 1 into flicker for Steve on regular hit is +6, but on counter hit, Steve goes from +6 to +11 frames. The second and quite possibly the most interesting flavor is changes in attack properties. Take Steve's back 1 into flicker, for example, here. This attack gives Steve +9 on hit and just looks like a regular hit on hit. For those of you who are frame savvy, you're like, holy shit, that's crazy. But wait, we didn't even get to the counter hit part yet. On counter hit, Steve is no longer +9 anymore. Instead, he gets a full-blown launcher. That's right, back 1 into flicker goes from granting him +9 to giving him a crumple stun. Into this monstrous damage, wall carry, and wall combo. Goddamn back 1. So fucking good. Anyways, of course, not all counter hit attacks change hit stun to crumple stun, right? Sometimes a counter hit attack will just knock down. For example, Steve's down back 2. On regular hit, it gives Steve +1 and forces crouch. But on counter hit is a knockdown. The third and last thing that can change, or the last flavor, is string properties. So some attack strings are not natural combos. However, on counter hit, they become natural combos. For example, let's take a look at Steve's peekaboo down forward 1-1-2-1. Normally, if the second hit of this string connects, the last 2 hits are not guaranteed and can be blocked. However, if the second hit is a counter hit, then the rest of this shit is guaranteed, and nothing can be done about it if the second hit is counter hit. Minimizing getting counter hit. A lot of beginners get counter hit left and right by characters that thrive on landing counter hits. Characters such as Asuka, Brian, Josie, Nina, and of course Steve will literally eat beginners alive with counter hits. Because of this, I want to give 2 big tips to minimize the chances of getting counter hit. There is never no way of never getting counter hit, because eventually you will have to press buttons to attack, but there are ways to reduce how often you get counter hit. Rule number 1. This is the most important rule. When you get hit, don't fucking press buttons. A general rule in Tekken is that most attacks offer plus frames on hit. If you're a beginner, chances are you don't know which attacks are heavily plus and which attacks are only a little plus, so you don't know when to challenge. So to keep things simple, if you get hit by an attack, just backdash and block. Let's take a look at an example. Alright, here we have Feng landing a down back 3, which is +4 on hit. Now Steve retaliates with a standing 1, which is 10 frames to come out and start up. He's immediately counter hit by while standing 4, which comes out in 11 frames. But since Steve was hit by down back 3, this 10 frame jab now comes out in 14 frames, making this while standing 4 from Feng 100% guaranteed counter hit because the button was pressed. And because this while standing 4 was counter hit, Feng is now at +29 frames. Alright, Steve again tries to press a button even at such a disadvantage and is met with a back one from Feng. And guaranteed into Iron Mountain. In this scenario, we see that pressing a button after being hit really leads down a terrible and slippery slope, alright, putting you in worse and worse situations. All of this could have been avoided if Steve here were to just block after the down back 3. Then none of the rest of the counter hits would have been guaranteed to follow up. Moral of the story, after getting hit, don't fucking press buttons. Rule number 2, when your attack is blocked and you know it's not plus, avoid pressing buttons. This is a little bit of a less clear-cut rule, but generally speaking, if you throw out an attack and it's -3 frames or more, don't try to press buttons unless you're playing some high-level mind game with your character and your opponent, and your opponent's actually respecting it. Do yourself a favor, just block after your attack is, blocked. So we'll take an example and take a look here. Alright, Steve does down forward 1-2, which is -6 on block. Feng blocks this attack, and Steve proceeds to go with a standing 1 jab, but is immediately counter hit with Feng's up forward 4, which is his hop kick launcher, starts up in 15 frames. Now, normally standing 1 jab from Steve would have beaten out Feng's up forward 4 on any other occasion. However, because Steve was at -6 on block, his standing jab now comes out at 16 frames instead of 10 frames. Therefore, Feng's up forward 4 launches Steve because Feng's up forward 4 launches Steve because it is 1 frame faster. There are definitely exceptions to these rules, but if you're a beginner, just stick to these 2 rules for now. As you become more familiar with the game and comfortable with your character and your opponent's characters, you can start breaking these rules. But for now, just keep it simple. Landing more counter hits. I'll keep this section short since it's kind of the opposite of the section regarding minimize getting counter hit. Rule number 1. Throw out a counter hit attack after landing an attack. A lot of players, especially in the light blue, the green, and even to some extent the yellow ranks, love to mash buttons after being hit. To capitalize on this, throw out an attack with a counter hit property like a crumple stun after landing an attack. I recommend throwing out something 14 frames or faster if your character has it, and ideally hits mid, but this doesn't have to be the case. Rule number 2, after blocking an opponent's attack, try fishing for a counter hit. There are plenty of attacks in the game that leave the opponent at minus frames, but despite this, players still love to press those goddamn buttons. Some players just can't help themselves, and I realize that you, yes you, don't always know how minus something is, or even if it's plus on block, but just try it out. After blocking something, throw out a fast counter hit attack. Again, 14 frames or faster is recommended. And please, these rules don't encapsulate everything about counter hits, but it's a good starting point. As you gain more knowledge on characters and recognize how plus an attack is or how minus your opponent is, you can better adjust which attacks to use and if you should even go for a counter hit attack at all, right? So just start here for now. Practice time. Practice? Yes, we have a practice section in this video. We will be practicing counter hit combos. I decided to throw in this topic since many beginners land a counter hit sometimes, then panic as they try to salvage some last minute combo on a counter hit. Does this look like you? Or how about this? Yeah, don't let this happen to you. My one best advice before getting started is have confidence that your counter hits will land. That is to say, throw out counter hit attacks with intention. Don't haphazardly throw them out there. Use counter hit attacks strategically. When we throw out a counter hit attack, we want to be looking for it to hit. Don't assume that it's not going to hit. Watch for it to hit. Okay, go to practice mode. Choose your character. For this example, I'm going to go with Steve. You can choose whichever character you want to practice with or against. Now, go into the menu section and scroll over to the rightmost tab. Under here, you will find counter hits. Set this to random. Now, you won't know when your attack will be a counter hit or a regular hit. Choose an attack with your character that has a counter hit property. For this example, I'm going to choose the trusty old back one from Steve. Now, use your attacks. Practice watching for it to hit. Intend on it to hit, right? Practice until you can consistently get this. I know this is not exactly a real match, but if you can at least convert off of a counter hit in practice mode, you have a fair shot of doing it in a real match. You don't have to worry about doing the whole combo if you don't want to. At least convert off of the first few hits, right? So if you can't do this in practice mode, chances are you're not going to be able to do it in a real match. If you can do it in practice mode, yeah, you have a good chance of landing it in a real match. Alrighty, thank you so much for tuning in on this short video for counter hits. Well, I guess not short anymore. Thank you for tuning in on this video for counter hits. I needed a little break from the Brian videos, and also I wanted to make sure to get back to some of the beginners and newer players out there to learn more about the Tekken game mechanics and systems. If you really enjoyed this content, go ahead and leave me a comment, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You know the drill. Thanks so much. I'm Peter, and I'm signing out. Take care, guys.